Hello everyone, I'm reading from Autobiography of a Yogi. I'm starting at the top, page 323, chapter 31, An Interview with the Sacred Mother. Reverend Mother, I was baptized in infancy by your prophet husband. He was the guru of my parents and of my own guru, Sri Yukteswar. Will you therefore give me the privilege of hearing a few incidents in your sacred life? I was addressing Srimati Kashi Moni, the life companion of Lahari Mahasaya. Finding myself in Benares for a short period, I was fulfilling a long-felt desire to visit the venerable lady. She received me graciously in the home of the Lahari family in the Garudeswar Mohula section of Benares. Although aged, she was blooming like a lotus, emanating a spiritual fragrance. She was of medium build, with fair skin, a slender neck, and large, lustrous eyes. Son, you are welcome here. Come upstairs. Kashi Moni led the way to a very small room where for a time she had lived with her husband. I felt honored to witness the shrine in which the peerless master had condescended to play the human drama of matrimony. The gentle lady motioned me to a pillow seat by her side. It was years before I began to realize the divine stature of my husband, she began. One night in this very room I had a vivid dream. Glorious angels floated in unimaginable grace above me. So realistic was the sight that I awoke at once. Strangely, the room was enveloped in dazzling light. My husband, in lotus posture, was levitated in the center of the room, surrounded by angels. In supplicating dignity, they were worshiping him with palm-folded hands. Astonished beyond measure, I was convinced that I was still dreaming. Woman, Lahari Messiah said, you are not dreaming. Forsake your sleep forever and forever. As he slowly descended to the floor, I prostrated myself at his feet. Master, I cried, again and again I bow before you. Will you forgive me for having considered you as my husband? I die with shame to realize that I have remained asleep in ignorance by the side of one who is divinely awakened. From this night you are no longer my husband, but my guru. Will you accept my insignificant self as your disciple? The master touched me gently. Sacred soul, arise, you are accepted. He motioned towards the angels. Please bow in turn to each of these holy saints. After I had finished my humble genuflections, the angelic voices sounded together like a chorus in an ancient scripture. Consort of the Divine One, thou art blessed. We salute thee. They bowed at my feet, and lo, their refulgent forms vanished. The room darkened. My guru asked me to receive initiation into Kriya Yoga. Of course, I replied. I am sorry not to have had that blessing earlier in my life. The time is ripe, Lahari Messiah smiled consolingly. Much of your karma I have silently helped you to work out. Now you are willing and ready. He touched my forehead. Masses of whirling light appeared. The radiance gradually formed itself into an opal blue spiritual eye, ringed in gold and centered in a white pentagonal star. Penetrate your consciousness through the star into the kingdom of the infinite. My guru's voice had a new note, soft like distant music. Vision after vision broke as oceanic surf on the shores of my soul. The panoramic spheres finally melted into a sea of bliss. I lost myself in ever-surging blessedness. When I returned hours later to awareness of this world, the master gave me the technique of Kriya Yoga. From that night on, Lahari Messiah never slept in my room again, nor therefore did he ever sleep. Nor thereafter did he ever sleep. He remained in the front room downstairs in the company of his disciples, both by day and by night. The illustrious lady fell into silence, realizing the uniqueness of her relationship with the sublime yogi. I finally ventured to ask for further reminiscences. "Son, you are greedy. Nevertheless, you shall have one more story." She smiled shyly. "I will confess a sin that I committed against my guru husband. Some months after my initiation, I began to feel forlorn and neglected. One morning, Lahari Messiah entered this little room to fetch an article. I quickly followed him. Overcome by delusion, I addressed him scathingly. "You spend all your time with the disciples. What about your responsibilities for your wife and children? I regret that you do not interest yourself in providing more money for the family." The master glanced at me for a moment, then lo, he was gone. Awed and frightened, I heard a voice resounding from every part of the room. "It is all nothing, don't you see? How could a nothing like me produce riches for you?" "Guruji," I cried, "I implore pardon 1,000,000 times. My sinful eyes can see you no more. Please appear in your sacred form." "I am here." This reply came from above me. I looked up and saw the master materialized in the air, his head touching the ceiling. His eyes were like blinding flames. Beside myself with fear, I lay sobbing at his feet after he had quietly descended to the floor. "Woman," he said, "seek divine wealth, not the paltry tinsel of earth. After acquiring inward treasure, you will find that the outward supply is always forthcoming." He added, "One of my spiritual sons will make provisions for you." My guru's words naturally came true. A disciple did leave a considerable sum for our family. I thanked Kashi Moni for sharing with me her wondrous experiences. On the following day, I returned to her home and enjoyed several hours of philosophical discussion with Tinkori and Dukori Lahari. These two saintly sons of India's great yogi followed closely in his ideal footsteps. Both men were fair, tall, stalwart, and heavily bearded, with soft voices and old-fashioned charm of manner. His wife was not the only woman disciple of Lahari Messiah. There were hundreds of others, including my mother. A woman, Chila, once asked the guru for his photograph. He handed her a print, remarking, "If you deem it a protection, then it is so, otherwise it is only a picture." A few days later, this woman and Lahari Messiah's daughter-in-law happened to be studying the Bhagavad Gita at a table behind which hung the guru's photograph. An electrical storm broke out with great fury. "Lahari Mahasaya, protect us." The women bowed before the picture. Lightning struck the book on the table and the two devotees were unhurt. I felt as though a sheet of ice were placed around me to ward off the scorching heat, the Chila related. Lahari Messiah performed 2 miracles in connection with the woman disciple, Abhoya. She and her husband, a Calcutta lawyer, started one day for Benares to visit the Guru. Their carriage was delayed by heavy traffic. To reach the Howrah main station in Calcutta only to hear the Benares train whistling for departure. Abhoya, near the ticket office, stood quietly. "Lahari Messiah, I beseech thee to stop the train." She silently prayed, "I cannot suffer the pangs of delay in waiting another day to see thee." The wheels of the snorting train continued to move round and round, but there was no onward progress. The engineer and passengers descended to the platform to view the phenomena. An English railroad guard approached Abhoya and her husband. Contrary to all precedent, the guard volunteered his services. "Babu," he said, "give me the money. I will buy your tickets while you get on board." As soon as the couple was seated and had received the tickets, the train slowly moved forward. In panic, the engineer and passengers clambered again to their places. knowing neither how the train started or why it had stopped in the first place. Arriving at the home of Lahari Masai in Benares, Apoya silently prostrated herself before the master and tried to touch his feet. "Compose yourself, Apoya," he remarked. "How you love to bother me, as if you could not have come here by the next train." Apoya visited Lahari Masai on another more memorable occasion. This time she wanted his intercession, not with a train, but with the stork. "I pray you to bless me that my 9th child live," she said. 8 babies have been born to me, all died soon after birth." The master smiled sympathetically. "Your coming child will live. Please follow my instructions carefully. The baby, a girl, will be born at night. See that the oil lamp is kept burning until dawn. Do not fall asleep and thus allow the light to become extinguished." Abhoya's child was a daughter, born at night exactly as foreseen by the omniscient Guru. The mother instructed her nurse to keep the lamp filled with oil. Both women kept the urgent vigil far into the early morning hours, but finally fell asleep. The lamp oil was almost gone. The light flickered feebly. The bedroom door unlatched and flew open with a violent sound. The startled women awoke. Their astonished eyes beheld the form of Lahari Masai. "Abhoya, behold, the light is almost gone." He pointed to the lamp, which the nurse hastened to refill. As soon as it burned again brightly, the master vanished. The door closed. The latch was affixed without visible agency. Abhoya's 9th child survived. In 1935, when I made inquiry, she was still living. One of Lahara's disciples, the Venerable Kali Kumar Roy, related to me many fascinating details of his life with the master. "I was often a guest at his Benares home for weeks at a time," Roy told me. "I observed that many saintly figures, Dandi Swamis, arrived in the quiet of night to sit at Guru's feet. Sometimes they would engage in discussion of meditational and philosophical points. At dawn, the exalted guests would depart. I found during my visits that Lahari Masai did not once lie down to sleep. During an early period of my association with the master, I had to contend with the opposition of my employer," Roy went on. He was steeped in materialism. "I don't want religious fanatics on my staff," he would sneer. "If I ever meet your charlatan guru, I will give him some words to remember." This threat failed to interrupt my regular program. I spent nearly every evening in my guru's presence. One night my employer followed me and rushed rudely into the parlor. He doubtless intended to utter the remarks he had promised. No sooner had the man seated himself than Lahari Masai addressed the group of about 12 disciples. Would you all like to see a picture?" When we nodded, he asked us to darken the room. "Sit behind one another in a circle and place your hands over the eyes of the man in front of you." I was not surprised to observe that my employer also was following, albeit unwillingly, the master's directions. In a few minutes, Lahari Masai asked us what we were seeing. "Sir," I replied, "a beautiful woman appears. She wears a red-bordered sari and stands near an elephant ear plant." All of the other disciples gave the same description. The master turned to my employer. "Do you recognize that woman?" "Yes." The man was evidently struggling with emotions new to his nature. "I have been foolishly spending my money on her, though I have a good wife. I am ashamed of the motives that brought me here. Will you forgive me and receive me as a disciple?" "If you lead a good moral life for 6 months, I shall accept you," the master added. "Otherwise, I won't have to initiate you." For 3 months, my employer refrained from his temptation. Then he resumed his former relationship with the woman. 2 months later, he died. Thus, I came to understand my guru's veiled prophecy about the improbability of the man's initiation. Lahari Messiah had a famous friend, Tail Aga Anga Swami, who was reputed to be over 300 years old. The two yogis often sat together in meditation. Trail Langa's renown was so widespread that few Hindus would deny the possibility of truth in any story of his astonishing miracles. If Christ returned to earth and walked the streets of New York City displaying his divine powers, it would cause the same awe among people that Trail Anga created decades ago as he passed through the crowded lanes of Benares. He was one of the Siddhas, perfected beings who have cemented India against the erosions of time. On many occasions, the Swami was seen to drink, with no ill effect, the most deadly poisons. Thousands of people, including a few still living, have seen Trail Anga floating on the Ganges. For days together, he would sit on top of the water or remain hidden for very long periods under the waves. A common sight at Manikarnika Ghat was the Swami's motionless body on the blistering stone slabs, wholly exposed to the merciless Indian sun. By these feats, Trail Anga sought to teach men that human life need not depend on oxygen or on certain conditions and precautions. Whether the great master was above water or under it, or whether or not his body challenged the fierce solar rays, he proved that he lived by divine consciousness. Death could not touch him. The yogi was great not only spiritually but physically. His weight exceeded 300 pounds, a pound for each year of his life. As he ate very seldom, the mystery was increased. A master, however, easily ignores all usual rules of health when he desires to do so for some special reason, often a subtle one known only to himself. Great saints who have awakened from the cosmic Maya dream and have realized this world was an idea of the divine mind can do as they wish with the body, knowing it to be only a manipulable form of condensed or frozen energy. Though physical scientists now understand that matter is nothing but a congealed energy, illumined masters have passed victoriously from theory to practice in the field of matter control. Trail Anga always remained completely nude. The harassed police of Benares came to regard him as a baffling problem child. The natural Swami, like the early Adam in the Garden of Eden, was unconscious of his nakedness. The police were quite conscious of it, however, and unceremoniously committed him to jail. General embarrassment ensued. The enormous body of Trail Anga was soon seen in its usual entirety on the prison roof. His cell, still securely locked, offered no clue to his mode of escape. The discouraged officers of the law once more performed their duty. This time a guard was posted before the Swami's cell. Might again retired before right. The great master was soon observed in his nonchalant stroll over the roof. The goddess of justice wears a blindfold. In the case of Trail Anga, the outwitted police decided to follow her example. The great yogi preserved a habitual silence. In spite of his round face and huge barrel-like stomach, Trail Anga ate only occasionally. After weeks without food, he would break his fast with potfuls of clabbered milk offered to him by devotees. A skeptic once determined to expose Trail Anga as a charlatan. A large bucket of calcium line mixture was used in whitewashing walls was placed before the Swami. Master, the materialist said in mock reverence, "I have brought you some clabbered milk. Please drink it." Trailanga unhesitatingly drank to the last drop the quarts of burning lime. In a few minutes the evildoer fell on the ground in agony. "Help, Swami, help," he cried. "I'm on fire. Forgive my wicked test." The great yogi broke his habitual silence. "Scoffer," he said, "you did not realize, when you offered me poison, that my own life is one with your own. Except for my knowledge that God is present in my stomach, as in every atom of creation, the lime would have killed me. Now that you know the divine meaning of boomerang, never play tricks on anyone." The sinner, healed by Trailanga's words, slunk feebly away. The reversal of pain was not a result of Master's will, but the operation of the law of justice that upholds creation's farthest swinging orb. The functioning of the divine law is instantaneous for men of God realization like Trailanga. They have banished forever all thwarting cross currents of ego. Faith in the automatic adjustments of righteousness (often paid in an unexpected coin, as in the case of Trailanga and the would-be murderer) assuages our hasty indignance at human injustice. Vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord. That's Romans 12:19. What need for man's poor resources? The universe duly conspires for retribution. Dull minds discredit the possibility of divine justice, love, omniscience, immortality. Airy scriptural conjectures. Men with insensitive viewpoint, aweless before the cosmic spectacle, set into motion in their lives a discordant train of events that ultimately compels them to seek wisdom. The omnipotence of spiritual law was referred to by Jesus on the occasion of his triumphal entry into Jerusalem. As the disciples and the multitude shouted for joy and cried, "Peace in heaven and glory to the highest," certain Pharisees complained of the undignified spectacle. Master, they protested, rebuke thy disciples. But Jesus replied that his disciples were silenced. Jesus replied that if his disciples were silenced, the stones would immediately cry out. That's Luke 19:37-30. In his reprimand to the Pharisees, Christ was pointing out that divine justice is no figurative abstraction, and that a man of peace, though his tongue be torn from his roots, will yet find his speech in defense in the bedrock of creation, the universal order itself. Thank you, Jesus was saying, to silence men of peace, as well may you hope to throttle the voice of God, whose very stones sing his glory and his omnipresence. Will you demand that men not celebrate together in honor of the peace in heaven? Will you counsel them to gather in multitudes and express their oneness only on occasions of war on earth? Then make your preparations, O Pharisees, to overtopple the foundations of the world, for gentle men will, as well as stones or earth and water and fire and air, shall rise up against you to bear witness to the divine harmony in creation. The grace of the Christ-like yogi Trailanga was once bestowed on my Seho Mama (material uncle). One morning, uncle saw the master amid a crowd of devotees at a Banaras Ghat. He managed to edge his way close to Trailanga and humbly to touch the yogi's feet. Uncle was astonished to find himself instantly freed of a painful chronic disease. The only known living disciple of the great yogi is a woman, Shankari Mayaju, daughter of one of Trailanga's disciples. She received the Swami's training from her early childhood. She lived for 40 years in a series of lonely Himalayan caves near Badrinath, Kedarnath, Amarnath, and Pasupatanath. The Brahmacharini woman aesthetic, born in 1826, is now well over the century mark. No, not aged in appearance, however, she has retained her black hair, sparkling teeth, and amazing energy. She comes out of seclusion every few years to attend the periodical melas, or religious fairs. This woman saint often visited Lahari Messiah. She has related that one day in the Barakpur section near Calcutta, while she was sitting by Lahari Masa's side, the great Guru Babaji quietly entered the room and held converse with them both. The deathless master was wearing a wet cloth, she recalls, as though he had just come from a dip in the river. He blessed me with some spiritual counsel. Trailanga is on a certain occasion in Benares forsook his usual silence in order to pay public honor to Lahari Messiah. One of Trailanga's disciples objected. "Sir," he said, "why do you, a Swami and renunciant, show such respect to a householder?" "My son," Trailanga replied, "Lahari Messiah is like a divine kitten, remaining wherever the cosmic mother has placed him. While dutifully playing the part of a worldly man, he has received the perfect self-realization, that perfect self-realization which I have sought by renouncing everything, even my loincloth." And this is a picture of the lady who's supposed to be 100 years old that he was talking about, living disciple of. Okay, the beginning of chapter 32. Rama is raised from the dead. Now a certain man was sick, named Lazarus. When Jesus heard that, he said, "This sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, that the Son of God might be glorified thereby." That's John 11:1-4. Sri Yukteswar was expounding the Christian scriptures one sunny morning on the balcony at his Shriramapur hermitage. Besides a few of Master's other disciples, I was present with a small group of my Ranchi students. In this passage, Jesus calls himself the Son of God. Though he is truly united with God, his reference here has a deep impersonal significance, my guru explained. The Son of God is the Christ, or divine consciousness, in man. No mortal can glorify God. The only honor that man can pay his Creator is to seek him. Man cannot glorify an abstraction that he does not know. The glory or nimbus around the head of the saints is a symbolic witness to their capacity to render divine homage. Sri Yukteswar went on to read the marvelous story of Lazarus' resurrection. At its conclusion, Master fell into a long silence, the sacred book open on his knee. I, too, was privileged to behold a similar miracle, my guru finally spoke with solemn unction. Lahari Messiah resurrected one of my friends from the dead. The young lads at my side smiled with keen interest. There was enough of the boy in me, too, to enjoy not only the philosophy, but in particular any story I would get Sri Yukteswar to relate about his wondrous experiences with his guru. My friend Rama and I were inseparable, Master began. Because he was shy and reclusive, He chose to visit our Guru Messiah only during the hours between midnight and dawn, when the crowd of daytime disciples was absent. As I was Rama's closest friend, he confided to me many of his deep spiritual experiences. I found inspiration in his ideal companionship. My Guru's face softened with memories. Okay, that's the end of the first paragraph on page 336. I'm stopping. I'll start again. Goodbye.